for Susie, Jilliana Ranicar-Breese. And now, Jilliana, you're going to do one of your vignettes.
Yes, I'm going to read one of my vignettes. In actual fact, it's really more like a blog. My sort of unofficial adopted daughter, Ingrid, who now lives in Miami, out of the blue wrote to me and she said, "What's your identity?" And I hadn't really thought about it. So this is what I wrote. I wrote it last year. Ingrid, the natural daughter I never had, asked me who I thought I was. A big question to ask a woman embracing her twilight years at the young age of 73. I have been many persons depending on the decades and life experience. And identity is not what you do work-wise. It is a passion, or how you feel doing what you love most. This may have nothing to do with your work, but is, however, your identity. You must have a goal and a passion, or you are lost. An involvement and relationship with yourself before you embark on a positive relationship with others. I roamed through life aimlessly with dreams like the wandering Jew, always finding out what I didn't like doing. It's hard without a goal, which should give you your identity. I had an epiphany when I was about 30 and followed my decision and dream without any experience to become a successful vintage collectibles dealer in Paris. For 30 years, that was my identity. A full-time, successful vintage collectibles dealer. I was in the right place at the right time, London, Paris, and New York. You learn through your mistakes. People usually ask what you do in life rather than who you are. Revealing who you are leads to better communication. You must take off your mask and reveal your true self. To thine own self be true, wrote the bard. I had a passion for my work. I was a workaholic 24/7, buying and selling, only thinking of the profit. I was a woman possessed and obsessed by greed. I delved into the minds of my clients, a dealer of dreams, honing into their passions in their private worlds so they love me because I mirrored them. I was invited to view their private collections and fill in the missing pieces of their jigsaws. My identity was that of a dealer, never a collector. Life was easy, profit was easy. I was what they call today an entrepreneur. I didn't realize who I had become until one day a French book dealer, observing me, spoke his mind and cracked my outer shell. He brought tears to my eyes, and I became softer and more human, thinking of my suppliers and colleagues for a change, their feelings, their profit margins, and showing an interest in who they were too. I had thus become a collector of people, rich and poor. Then disaster struck. I became, horror of horrors, a collector. My identity shifted away from profit. I had bought a collection of vintage luggage labels from America that were too beautiful to part with at any price. The worst thing that can happen to a dealer is to become a collector. I became obsessed with vintage packaging. I had a new identity, that of a collector. I no longer wanted to sell my treasures, but to learn and acquire more. Knowledge was the key. Knowledge was and is power. Know your subject. I felt powerful. An archive was born, like a baby, like the baby I never gave birth to. Retrograph Archive was founded in 1986, the history of packaging and consumer advertising from 1860 to 1960s, 100 years of graphic design. Another identity emerged, that of a picture researcher, a picture sourcer, and archivist. The archive grew into a commercial photo library. Looking back, I should have delegated the administrative side, but I did not. I was like a bird in a gilded office cage for 20 chaotic years. No hanky-panky, no cash sales. It was a daily administration with emails and invoicing plus VAT. Mamma mia. Despite being the fourth nostalgia and illustrative archive in the UK, I was ahead of my time, a BAPLA member, and in all the professional directories like the Knowledge, the Artists and Writers Yearbook, the White Books, Mary Evans Picture Library, et al. The passion had gone, even though I still had the identity. The trick is and was to have both at the same time. Then 2 disasters happened simultaneously in the 90s. First, the digital age came upon us and I was an ignorant technophobic. Then eBay, which killed my dealing in Portobello Road Market, where I had happily a stand for 25 years. I'm cutting this a bit. You must move on, and I had nowhere to move on to. I therefore fell into depression. Martin, my then husband, and I moved to our beautiful Edwardian Bieber house, from our Edwardian Bieber house in Notting Hill, to a large Georgian house of historic interest in Hanover Crescent in Brighton. Suddenly, my faithful husband of 25 years betrayed, stole, and tormented me. At the age of 69, it was sex, drugs, and rock and roll and drink that took over his newfound life in liberal Brighton and destroyed mine, stripping me of my identity. I lost 4 years of my life, which I refer to as my lost years. No identity, no passion, no retrograph, no material possessions, and no home. I collapsed like a pack of bicycle cards, but I never stopped writing. Shall I go on or not?
Well, it's up to you, Jilliana. Does that feel like the place that you want to stop? Can I ask what bicycle cards are?
It's a magic pack. It's because I was involved with conjuring.
Oh, they're a type
and
of
all the
card.
magicians use the bicycle pack. Yeah. Shall I go on?
Well, it depends. I mean, it feels like a bit of a negative spot to kind of.
Okay. All right. Well, no.
What's the end?
I mean, the phoenix did rise again, so of course that's.
Well, let's get
Go
the
to
Phoenix.
the good bit.
Phoenix.
I'm
rising
about
again,
to go to the Phoenix. I never stopped writing. My first vignette was entitled The Outsider, and I discovered that writing is healing, and it kept me going through my darkest years. But at that point, it had not yet become my newfound identity. I suddenly regained my passion for colourful jewellery on a trip to Spain. Retail therapy works, and I am the living proof. Back I went to Brighton. Charity shops were always a mecca for my professional eager eye. I did not want to go back into the exciting world of antiques because I was no longer part of it. The chase that thrills the hunter, the hunt for the bargain of a lifetime, but this time without the greed. The passion, but not the identity, had returned. Okay, so I was in New York. This was one of the turning points, and I was approached by a walking art apparition, the Queen of Colour, American Sue Kreutzmann, who recognised my sultana style. Of course, I haven't explained about that. "Who are you?" she asked. It takes one to know one, I always say. Sue, living between London and New York, would become the catalyst, introducing me to the bright, eccentric, colourful world of the colour walk back in Spitalfields, London. I had a new identity. Indeed, I had rebranded myself as Sultana Jilliana, a self-styled fashionista born out of the ashes of the Phoenix, as the Phoenix had risen again in 2013 when I embraced the sun, colour and textiles and wanderlust in my life.
Well, maybe that's
Yes.
maybe that's an appropriate moment to.
Yes, well, in fact, that's where I met Carol.
Oh right.
So there we
Oh,
are.
okay.
I met Carol at the Colour Walk in 2017,
Correct.
and here she is today.
I always find it so difficult to someone, sum yourself up. I mean, like, who are you? What kind of question is that anyway? I mean, because at the moment, me and my sister are trying to get on Pointless,